Hi, welcome back to Kaplan's Career Goals. I'm your host, Kelsey Haslam, and today we have a very exciting guest. She's the head of finance at ITV Studios and a chartered accountant. It's Kim Halliday.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, yeah, good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let's jump straight into it. Working in TV, is it as glamorous as people think?
No. No, it does have a glamorous side, but I suppose it's like every other job really, isn't it? It's the grind of the day-to-day work, but there are some glamorous sides, yes.
You work for ITV Studios,
Correct.
yeah? Can you just explain what that is compared to other ITV?
So ITV is made up of different business areas. So you've got ITV Studios, which is the production business, and then you've got ITV Broadcasting, which is the channel, and we've got a distribution arm as well, so they sell what ITV Studios make, they sell it to the international markets. So I work within the scripted division of ITV Studios, kind of looking after our high-end TV dramas. So the likes of Vigil that we made for the BBC, Line of Duty.
So do you know what's going to happen before it happens when you're watching?
I do.
Do you sit with people and you think, do you know, like, say if it's something like Line of Duty, that's like a big one, everyone's talking about it. You know what's going to happen, so do you have to
Well, not always. So I will help break down scripts depending on who's preparing the actual programme budget. So to help them do that, we have to kind of see what is required, you know, if there's going to be explosions, where the scenes are going to be set. So I do get to read the script, but sometimes I'll try and think, well, I will enjoy that as a viewer.
Do you, like, friends and family, do they say, like, oh, just tell me who the killer is?
All the time, all the time. Like, if something's big, like, so Line of Duty's got such kind of, well, I wouldn't say global following, but it was massive whilst it was on. And they would always like, oh, the next episode's on, what are you going to tell me what's going to happen? Or I can't watch it tonight, so can you film me? And like, no, just watch it and catch up.
See, I'd be that type of person. Like, I'm the type of person where I'll be watching something, like a normal TV programme or film or whatever, and if I know something's about to happen, I can't deal with the fact that I don't know, that I'll have to pause it and Google what's going to happen. I Google spoilers while they're about to happen because I can't deal with the not knowing.
I like to enjoy it as a viewer as well. So, like, working in TV, it does kind of take that away. And drama being kind of the programme that I like to watch.
Yeah.
I still want to enjoy it as a viewer rather than it being my job.
Yeah.
But I do kind of watch things and think, we could have saved some money there. Or
do you ever, when they send you stuff and say if they need, say like, we need this budget for this big explosion, for example, so is it essentially your decision to say yes or no? No,
so there's a creative process that happens, and the writers will produce the scripts and then they get pitched, and then once it gets kind of greenlit by commissioner, we'll go through and then build that budget to the script, and then the commissioner will say, oh, we can afford that or we can't afford it, so you have to slash things. So sometimes it's hard conversations where you have to sit back with a writer and say, we can't have all that, so you just need to kind of pull it back a bit, which is not always good, but the creatives do that.
It's really interesting. So when you went to, because you're a chartered accountant, what qualification do you have?
CIMA.
CIMA?
Yeah.
And when you were studying CIMA, did you know that you wanted to go into TV?
No, so I kind of left school and went straight to work doing like different things. I was like, oh, I'm overstudying, I'm never doing it again in my life. I don't want to do college, I'm not going to university, I want a job.
Yeah.
And then I kind of did different things and thought, well, what actually do I enjoy doing? And maths was the only thing that I really enjoyed in school. And I was like, well, I'm going to end up working in finance, but to do that, I'm going to have to study again. So I went travelling for a while. And then I got a job with an insurance company. And then a job came up, a part-time job, like temporary job came up at ITV. And I wanted to work for a brand, like a known brand.
Yeah.
Like when I first got into finance, I was like, I want to be the finance director at Manchester United.
Really?
And then, yeah, a temporary job came up at ITV, and I was only supposed to be there for 2 weeks, and 16 years later, here I am.
And you've worked your way up.
Yeah, I started off in AP, and I've worked up to finance business partner.
Was it a big shock when you got that job?
When I first started ITV, it was more like in a kind of corporate central finance kind of role, so it's like just a general purchase ledger kind of sales ledger environment. So it wasn't until I moved into drama and I became the finance analyst first, that you kind of see actually what goes into making TV programmes, and it is quite eye-opening.
Is it?
Yeah.
So we're going to jump into a game called Word Association. So I'm going to read out several words and just give me the first thing that comes to mind. No wrong answer. So television.
Drama.
Budget.
Overspent.
Study.
Difficult.
Growth.
Learning.
Leisure.
Travel.
Film.
Cinema.
Tax.
Boring.
Finance.
Necessary.
Work,
Enjoyable.
family,
Close.
career,
Ongoing.
home,
Comfort.
Kaplan.
Exams.
So, because you said, I think it was for study where you said that like it was difficult, hard. Did you struggle with your CIMA?
Very difficult. Well, it wasn't very difficult, it's just I didn't do it as quickly as people normally anticipate that they will get through a set of exams, because I wouldn't say that I'm the most academic. I find it really hard to just kind of sit and focus and do an exam. I'm not the best at it. I like on-the-job learning, which is probably why I went down the route of like an apprenticeship type of approach to doing CIMA. But yeah, it took me a while.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, I think you kind of expect that it's going to be easy to work through, but like I speak to a lot of people who are studying CIMA and it is difficult.
Yeah, I think, you know what it is? I think it's the time management of it. Whereas like when like in a work scenario, if you've got a task to do, you'll take your time going from the start to the end. There's no one saying you've got to do that in an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think it was more that side of it that I found difficult.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And with you saying that tax is boring, is there anything that you need to do in your job that you need to know that?
So well, for dramas, because of the value of the budgets, so we attract the high-end TV tax credits. So I'm involved with the kind of the calculation and the overseeing forecasting of that process. But any kind of business tax, we leave that to the tax department, because like we have meetings with them and they just start talking and I had to glaze over. So yeah, now I'm glad that I don't have to do any kind of proper tax accounting as such.
It's really interesting to think of how much goes into, like, even just making one TV programme, how much goes into it. And does it not, I know we were speaking before about you watching it and you can feel the budget and like you can see it, but does it ruin TV for you?
It doesn't ruin it, it does take a little bit away from the fact that I don't just sit back and enjoy it as a viewer anymore, because I'm always thinking, oh, shouldn't have paid them so much money, they could have done a better job. The lighting on that could have been a little bit better. But that's because I'm picking up things kind of like going to set and things like this that, yeah, I see it when I watch it, so it does spoil it a little bit, but I still enjoy everything that I'm watching.
Do you ever watch anything on TV that isn't made by ITV or hasn't been, like, you haven't seen it and you feel like you know how much it cost?
Yeah.
So
We do that game like within our team. It's like, oh, did you watch such and such? Oh, that was amazing. Did you see the credits? How many people were in that finance team? You're like, whoa, what were they all doing?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's hard not to. It's really hard not to. And then there's times I'll watch things and I think, oh, I wish that was something that we'd made, that we could have been a part of that process, because some programmes are really good.
Yeah, TV is like a form of escapism, and it's strange to even think about what goes on behind the scenes and what's that, the fact that there is a behind the scenes type of thing.
Like there's a behind the scenes and then there's the behind the scenes as well, and I'm like behind the scenes.
Yeah,
a lot
like,
of the time. So
it's really interesting. And say if you went into another industry now, do you think it would be like the same?
No. Had I not been at ITV so long, I'm not sure I would have stayed in finance.
Really?
Yeah, because I just don't imagine. Like I've worked for an insurance company, I've worked in a manufacturing company, and it is literally the day-to-day grind of the same numbers. Like, say, month end rolls into the same budget period, whereas TV is so, like, don't get me wrong, you still have those moments, but each programme's different, there's always something that's going on. You know, last week we had a fire on set, so it's like, oh, what's the impact of that? Then you've got to deal with insurance claims. It is very, very interesting.
Do you ever get to see, like, them filming?
Yeah, I get to be in them sometimes as well.
Really?
Yeah, I'll be a free extra. I'll go down and do it, and then realise how long it takes and all the sitting around, and thought, I won't be doing that again.
I know, yeah, because you look at it and you think, oh, I'll just do it. Like,
yeah.
Just cast yourself. Do you work for, it's hybrid that you work hybrid?
Yeah, so we've got the kind of, well, I split my time. So the team that I look after the majority of the time is a production company that ITV bought, and they're all based in London. So I'll do 2 weeks every fortnight in London, and then I do a day in the Manchester office as well.
So do you like travelling up and down?
I don't mind. It's easier now, it's fortnightly, not weekly.
Yeah.
But like, because I lived in London for a period of time when I first started looking after World, but COVID hit, and then I decided I wanted to come back to Manchester. So I kind of still get the best of both worlds. I get like the hustle and bustle of London without having to live there.
Yeah.
So it's quite nice. And then I can just go home and escape in Manchester to my dog.
So speaking about your commute, we're gonna move on to dream commute.
Mm-hmm.
So in a world with no limitations, who would you be travelling with? What snacks would you be eating? What music would you be listening to? And what would your mode of transport be? And where would you be travelling to?
Somewhere hot. Work would be somewhere hot, so the commute would always be in warmth. I think my mode of transport would have to be a boat.
Oh,
I like to be on water.
Yeah.
So that would be quite nice. Nobody wants to be stuck in a car on the M56 or on a bus. Definitely a boat. Who with? Beyonce. It'd have to be. Maybe Diana Ross. One of those two, Beyonce or Diana Ross. Or if no one famous, it would be my closest friends.
And what would you be listening to?
Beyonce or Diana Ross.
So whoever you're with, the other one you'll be listening to?
Yes.
And what snack?
Well, I'd be a health freak, so it'd have to be like something healthy, fruit or something.
Really? Yeah. Like dream?
I would love to be a health freak, but I'm not, so let's pretend I am.
So do you like travelling?
Yes.
Is that something that you kind of try and do in your spare time often?
I used to try and do it often, but the busier we get, I don't seem to get the chance anymore. But I do get to travel for work, so that's nice.
Do you? What type of things do you do?
So a lot of our shoots now involve, so as we can tap into an international tax credit, we film overseas for a lot of the productions now. So to set everything up and get the service companies up and ready, I'll take myself out there to do the funding deals.
I love that. Where's like the best place you've been for work?
I was in Morocco last year, and unfortunately I should have gone to Toronto last week, but we weren't allowed. They're only doing a week shoot, so.
What are they for, can you say?
There's a couple of dramas that are coming up that I can't tell you what they are, unfortunately.
So working overseas, is there any differences compared to, like finance-wise, compared to when you're working in the UK?
The systems are normally different, and then teams just operate in different ways. But obviously, because we're part of a PLC and we've got corporate governance, we have to adhere to certain controls. So generally, that's why I'll have to go out to make sure that one, the money's being spent how it should be, and that their controls are similar to ours. And if they've not got them in place, we would have to get them to sign up to our ways of working. So they're not always different, but there are some kind of small parts that can vary.
Yeah, and what would you say like the most interesting part of your job is to you?
It's the creative process that you get to be a part of that you don't normally see as a finance professional. Like your finance is crunching the numbers, but it's understanding where those numbers come from, and because it's a creative process behind them, I find that really interesting. Some writers can be flying back from America and be like, oh, I've wrote another 6-parter, and you're like, how have you done that? Whereas other writers, they'll take months just to get an episode out.
Yeah.
So I would say that's interesting. It's the talent, not actually the finance, it's the talent.
Like being surrounded by it, being in it. And what would you say to people that kind of have that stereotype of finance just being number crunching? Like I know you've just give examples, but like say if someone was interested in going into that industry, what would your advice be? To
always kind of look into it and to try and speak to people, because when I was at school thinking about what I wanted to do, and you get a list of jobs that you do those little dot things on, it's like you fit into a category where it's accountant. And that was kind of the only finance option that came up, and it's like, well, you either like maths or you don't. But it's not really like that. Just within TV, there are so many roles that are finance related. I'm obviously an accountant, I'm more of a corporate finance role. But then actually within production, you've got production accountants, there's financial controllers, line producers need a finance background because they essentially are controlling that budget day to day.
Yeah.
So my advice would be always to ask and speak to people and look into things a little bit more. There's so much out there.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I was going to say, what are the different type of roles? Say one TV show will be really big and it'll have all this, but how do you all kind of work together if you all have a different role but in the same industry? So
if we take one show as an example, you've got a line producer who works very close with the production accountant. So the production accountant will be managing the cost book. They'll feed into the line producer, who then telling the producer and the director what they've got left to spend. The production accountants then feed in that information into me so I can make sure they're staying within the overall budget. I'm then consolidating that into ITV's PLC numbers. There's a lot of people involved, but it's kind of going up the chain as such to get what does that programme actually make for ITV as a business.
For people that are looking into, people that are interested, people that are watching this and thinking, I want that, how would they go into it? How would they approach going into
So
TV
you could,
and
like,
things?
so your ITV, your BBC, they've always got jobs on their job board, so you can look into things like that, or you can look up smaller production companies, that like independent production companies that will usually have a very small finance team, but they will oversee the whole finance process, if that makes sense. So like for PLC, we're broken down into different kind of teams, looking after different areas, whereas you've probably got an independent production company, one finance controller who does everything from petty cash, payroll, management accounts, all in one role, and you kind of get a good knowledge there. Or if you want to look at what is available in production, you've got things like the Production Guild, Creative Screen Skills, who do training for production accountants, because it is quite niche to be a production accountant, but you can take transferable skills from any kind of finance background and transfer those over. But their Screen Skills do specific courses for finance individuals who want to move into production.
So obviously your role is to make sure that we stay in budget, but I can imagine that there's times where you go over budget. What would the reasons be for that, and how would you react?
There's different things that can cause you to go over budget. I mean, the current climate at the moment, obviously everything costs more money. So you could prepare a budget for drama in January of the year, and that might not go into production until the following January. So you've got a whole year's worth of inflation or like cost changing. That will increase your budget. You could be delayed because talent don't show up. That, you know, there's a day's filming that you've lost, or a week's filming, or just kind of the requests that some of the talent have.
A diva? Do you ever have any divas?
We've got lots of divas, and we try and kind of capture all that stuff in their deal, which is done quite early on, ideally. Because sometimes you'll make a programme and whoever commissions it say, we'll commission it on the basis that you get so-and-so as the lead. So you'll kind of do their deal early on to try and factor all those things into the budget before you start. But yeah, there's sometimes, there's requests that come afterwards.
How do you deal with people like that? Like, say if they do expect a lot, or they are a character.
Fortunately, I don't have to do like the face-to-face dealing of it. I'll speak to the label head or the creative director and be like, look, we just can't afford it. So either you take a hit on your profit to make way for it, or you go back and have the difficult conversation of, no, we won't put your dog up for a week while you're shooting. So, because the requests do come through are ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah.
I bet like you're that person where, do you know when the people are having the difficult conversation, they're like, well, finance said.
Yeah, they're like, she said no.
Yeah, you're the bad guy.
We can't
because
afford
they can't speak to you. Like, so we're gonna move on to desirable dinner party.
Oh, you put me on the spot.
If you had a dinner party and you could have 3 guests, no limitations, this can be like fictional, dead, alive, who would it be and why?
Actor would be Stephen Graham.
Yeah.
Because I think he's amazing, and we've had him in so many shows that I've never got the opportunity to go and meet him. So I keep trying to like get him recasting things, although that's not my job. It's like, oh, that's perfect for Stephen Graham. We're going to get him to do it, because I would really like to meet him. And I think his acting's brilliant.
Yeah, he is.
And I'd have to go another actor, it'd be Denzel Washington. Because again, his acting is amazing, and I kind of wish he was my dad.
That's a good answer. Stephen Graham's a really good one though. Who is the most famous person that you've met at work? Or who have you been the most starstruck meeting?
Justin Timberlake. So when I worked in London, our office was outside the kind of guest changing rooms.
Yeah.
For when they did like Graham Norton or Alan Carr's Chatty Man. So on a Thursday night, when they filmed late in the evening, we'd be like, right, we're working late tonight. And you come in the morning, check who was on the thing, and I remember it being Justin Timberlake and Channing Tatum, and I was like, oh, I'm never going home. And then I just came out of the office to go to the toilet, and he came out of the changing room, and I was like, you know, like kind of shocked, like, and he just like kind of giggled and carried on walking. I was like, I'm so embarrassed. Because I've just been like shocked in front of Justin Timberlake.
Are you allowed to ask him for a picture because you work there?
No,
you're not
unfortunately.
allowed.
I remember saying to my boss though when he was in, like, this will be the day, guys, that I'm going to lose my job.
Would you get in trouble for
Yeah,
it?
we would.
Really?
So we've got to be professional. They're at work, we're at work.
Do you get like, because things like Graham Norton, am I right in saying that they're usually free tickets?
Yes.
Do you get kind of priority for that?
We don't get priority, so we used to, and then when ITV used to kind of manage the tickets themselves, but now they do it for a third party company, so we don't, unless you are part of that kind of team, So I know people who work on Graham Norton, I know people who work on Loose Women, so if I wanted tickets, I could get them.
Since you've been in this industry, has there been any changes in the time that you've been there?
There's a lot of change in the volume of work. It's peaks and troughs. You know, before COVID, we were extremely busy. There was commissions left, right, and centre. We've got, you know, new platforms coming out that want content. So we've got new kind of rivals and competition all the time. Then you had the actors' strike and the writers' strike last year, which is now impacted this year.
It's like external factors do.
Yes, we're so heavily kind of impacted by external factors, and it is just a constant change. You know, people's viewing habits have changed. Like, you used to watch TV on channel 1, 2, 3, 4, then 5. Now you can watch TV when you want, how you want. You know, we used to all compete, particularly in drama, for that kind of 9 o'clock Sunday slot, because that's when you knew that everyone was at home, everyone was sat down with their families, and everyone would watch that content. Whereas now, like you say, you know, you can watch anything you want, whenever you want. So we kind of, the way we show programmes has changed a lot, and that brings challenges in itself with budgets as well.
I use ITV for quite a lot of stuff, and I know that you go in it and it's kind of free unless you pay for the subscription, and then you've got no ads. So is that kind of another kind of form of revenue that you've got now, but then the actual TV, mainstream TV decline?
Well, the ad market from linear TV, so on ITV main channel, is up and down, and we're very much down this year because people are watching TV differently. So yeah, the revenues from X are to kind of to increase and level out those revenues for the broadcasting division, because that's how they make their money.
So can you talk me through the average day as head of finance at ITV Studios?
So yeah, that average day will change depending on kind of what is happening, like how many productions we've got shooting. Like, so predominantly we shoot generally. Our busiest shooting time is throughout the summer, because obviously there's more daylight hours. So a day in the summer, I'd probably wake up, like a normal boring day, like wake up, walk my dog, sit at my desk, do a few Zoom meetings, but check in with all my production accountants, see if they're experiencing any issues, or if they're kind of forecasting that we may be heading towards an overspend, or if we've got an underspend that I then need to tell ITV about. I might then speak to a label head who's probably been in a development meeting to go through what we've got on the development slate to see what potentially could get commissioned to form next year's budget. We're constantly trying to think about what the next 3 years is looking like. So it's conversations to make sure, like, what's in current budgets to make sure we're not losing or going to not hit our targets, and then seeing what is coming down the line. So yeah, it's a lot of meetings, a lot of catching up, and are you on track, so then I can keep what I'm doing on track.
So you studied CIMA. What made you choose CIMA over a qualification like ACCA?
I think with CIMA, it's kind of more about the strategy and going forward, looking at finance and how to kind of move a business forward, whereas ACCA is very much kind of group finance, group accounting, how it seemed to me at the time, which was always kind of looking at the past. And it's like, oh, well, that's already happened. I wanted to be involved more with like strategy, financial strategy, which is kind of what I'm doing day to day, essentially, is I'm helping our creatives manage their business unit as a business and how to move it forward and make it profitable.
So for anyone that is interested in following a career path like yours, what advice would you give to them in terms of like what qualifications they should take, what opportunities they should look for?
I think my first part was depending on like who and how old this advice kind of is going to. You know, you don't always need to leave school and go to college and go to university to get a degree, because I didn't, but I've still got a very successful finance career. I'm still a qualified accountant. You can do it without necessarily doing the typical path. You can, you know, I wanted to go to work straight away because I wanted to earn money. I wanted to move out. So, you know, you can look at apprenticeships. There are a multitude of different kind of routes that you can take. I always had a goal of, I wanted to progress and I wanted to get to a certain level. I wasn't bothered about how long it took me, but it's kind of, you might not know what that end goal is, but you kind of want to put some kind of stepping stones in place. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like small goals.
Set small goals to reach the big one.
To reach the bigger ones, yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's good advice, especially because I know that, say if like someone that's listening to this might be, say if they're younger, like say 18, 19, do you know, that age where you're trying to, where you think that you need to try and get everything together.
Yeah.
It can be really overwhelming. If you're sat there at the beginning of your career trying to work out what you want to do, it can be overwhelming to be like, I want to do this. And that's like the whole point of the show, really.
And I think
like,
another thing I'd say as well is like, just like be mindful that, all right, if you decide that you want to be an accountant and you go down that path, it doesn't have to just stop there. Like I don't, although I'm a qualified accountant, I don't work as an accountant now. I work as a business partner, head of finance, and that is the result of training to be an accountant. So like different doors will open up, or different paths. You might choose something different once you kind of get that qualification as well.
So thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
We had a good time.
I have.
Before we let you go, just one last question. What does career goals mean to you?
I thought about that, but I think I've just kind of also said that as well. It's not necessarily having an end goal in mind. It's kind of having an idea and putting little goals in place to kind of open up to achieve the bigger goals.
Thanks so much for watching, and if you're seeking a career in accounting and finance, just have a look on our website at kaplan.co.uk. Remember to like, comment, subscribe and turn the notifications on, and we'll see you again soon.